Let's sit in a comfortable meditation posture and close the eyes. Put our attention on the silence that is always there deep in the mind. Connect with that silence. Become the silence. You are the silent witness. Now listen to the Yoga Vashishta from this platform of the silent witness. We're in book 5, chapter 20, continuing with verse 40. Those who are indifferent in their views have their quietude amidst all the occurrences of life. Those who have known the true one, the silent witness, only to witness the course of nature. Those who know God do their acts without thinking themselves the actors. Just as the lamps of night witness the objects around their consciousness of them. The wise witness the objects as they are reflected in the mirror of their minds, just as a mirror and gems receive the images of things. Now, my boy, rub out all your wishes and visible signs of memories from your mind and see the image of the serene Spirit of God in your innermost soul. Learn to live like the great sages, with the sight of your spiritual light, and by effacing all impressions from your mind. Chapter 21. Suppression of desires by suppression of thoughts. Vashishta continues. Pavana, having lectured by Punya in this manner, became as enlightened in his intellect as the landscape at daybreak. After they continued living in the forest with the perfection of these spiritual knowledge, they wandered about in the woods to their heart's content. After a long time, they both attained nirvana and rested in their disembodied state of nirvana, like a lamp without oil wasting away of itself. This is the end of men's great boast, of having large clouds of followers and numberless friends in their embodied states of lifetime. Alas, they carry nothing with them to their afterlife, nor do they leave anything behind which they can properly call theirs. The best means of relief from many objects of our desires is the utter suppression of our desires rather than fostering them. Yearning after objects increases our desire, just as thinking of something increases our thoughts about it. Fire that burns bright from its fuel soon dies out without it. This is the advice to ignore thoughts that arise in the mind from karmic traces. Before we're established in the silent witness, it's difficult to know the origin of thoughts in the mind, but it's safe to assume that thoughts only arise in the mind from the expression of individual karmic traces. So during meditation, we have the instruction, just ignore any thought that arises in the mind. Once we're established in this silent witness, it's easy to see the origin of thoughts that arise in the mind. If they're coming from the silent witness, we should just ignore them. The light of the silent witness will balance these thoughts as they arise, their root as individual karmic traces. Now rise, O Ram, and remain aloft as in your aerial car by losing your worldly desires. Look from above with pity upon the miseries of groveling mortals. This is the divine state known as the position of Rama, which looks from above with unconcerned serenity upon all. By gaining this state, the ignorant are also freed from misery. One waking with reason as his companion and having good understanding for his consort is not liable to fall into the dangerous traps that lie hidden in his way throughout life. Being deprived of all properties and destitute of friends, one has no other help to lift him up in his adversity except his own patience and reliance upon God. Let men elevate their minds with learning, dispassion, and the virtues of self-dignity and valor in order to rise above the difficulties of the world. There is no greater good to be derived by any means than by the greatness of mind. It gives security, which no wealth or earthly treasure can confer upon men. It is only men of weak and crazy minds who are made to swing to and fro, rising and striking in the tempestuous ocean of the world. The mind, filled with knowledge and full with the light of truth, finds the world filled with ambrosial water and moves over it as easily as a man walking on dry shoes or on ground covered with leather. Lack of desire fills the mind much more than fulfillment of its desires. Dry up the channels of desires like autumn. Heat parches a pool. Otherwise, desires empty the heart and lay open its gaps to be filled by air. The hearts of the greedy are as dry as the bed of the Dead Sea that was drained by the son of Agasti. The spacious garden of the human heart flourishes with the fruit of humanity and greatness only as long as the restless ape of greed does not infest in its fair trees. The mind, devoid of greed, views the triple world with the twinkling of an eye. A comprehensive mind sees all space and time as infinitesimally small compared to its conception of the infinite Brahma with itself. The coolness in the mind of a man who is not greedy is not found in the watery luminary of the moon or in the icy caverns of the snow-capped Himalayas. Neither the coldness of plantain juice nor sandalwood paste is comparable with the cool-headedness of one without desire. The mind that does not desire shines more brightly than the full moon and more brilliantly than the bright face of Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity. The urchin of appetite darkens the mind with a cloud, like a cloud obscures the moon, and like black ink obliterates a fair picture. The tree of desire stretches its branches far and wide on every side, darkening the mind with their gloomy shadows. When the branching tree of desire is cut down at its roots, the plant of patience, which was stunted under it, shoots forth in 100 branches. When the unfading tree of patience takes the place of the uprooted desires, it produces the tree of paradise that yields the fruit of immortality. O well-intentioned Rama, if you do not allow the sprouts of mental desires to germinate in your bosom, then you have nothing to fear in this world. When you become sober-minded, after moderating your heart's desires, you will have the plant of liberation growing in its full luxuriance in your heart. When the grasping owl of desire nestles in your mind, it is sure you will be invaded by every evil which the foreboding bird brings on its home. Thinking is the power of the mind, and thoughts dwell upon the objects of desire. Therefore, abandon your thoughts and their objects, and be happy with your thoughtlessness of everything. Anything that depends on any faculty is lost upon inaction of that faculty. Therefore, by suppression of your thoughts, you can put down your desire and thereby have rest and peace of mind. Be free-minded, O Ram, by tearing off all your mind's worldly ties. Become a great soul by suppressing your mean desires of earthly frailties. For who is not set free by being loosened from the chains of desire that bind his mind to this earth? Chapter 22. The story of Mahabali, the benevolent king of demons, and his father Virochana. Vasishtha said, O Ram, who is the bright moon of Raghu's race, you should also follow the example of Bali in acquiring wisdom by self-discernment. Rama said, Venerable sage who is acquainted with all natures, it is by your favor that I have gained all that is worth gaining in my heart. And that is our final rest in the purest state of infinite bliss. O sage, it is by your favor that my mind is freed from the great delusion of my many desires. Just as the autumn sky is cleared of the rainy season clouds. My soul is at rest and as cold as a stone. It is filled with the ambrosial nectar of divine knowledge and its holy light. I find myself resting in perfect bliss and as illumined as the queen of the stars, rising in her full light in the evening. O you dispeller of my doubts, who resembles the clear autumn sky that clears the clouds of the rainy season. I am never full or satisfied with all your holy teachings. For the advancement of my knowledge, tell me how Bali came to know transcendental truth. Explain it fully unto me, as holy saints reserve nothing from their humble students. Vasishtha replied, O Ram, pay attention to me, to the interesting story of Bali. Your attention to it will give you knowledge of the endless, everlasting, and unvarying truth. It is a particular part in the womb below the earth. There's a place called the infernal region. It is peopled by milk-white goddesses born in the sweet water of the milky ocean. They are of the race of demons, and they filled every gap and chasm of this place with their offspring. In some places, it was peopled by huge serpents, with 100,000 heads that hissed loudly with their parted and forked tongues and long fangs. In other places, there were mountainous bodies of demons walking in lofty strides, seemingly able to fling worlds like candy and devour them. In another place, there were big elephants, holding up the earth on their raised trunks and supporting islands on their strong, long tusks. In other places, there were ghosts and devils, making hideous shrieks and noise. There were groups of hellish bodies and putrid carcasses of ghostly shapes. Concealed in the dark womb of the nether world were rich mines of gems and metals, reaching to the seventh and lowest layer of the infernal regions. Another part of this place was sanctified by the dust of the lotus-like feet of the divine sage Kapila, who was adored by gods and demigods, who prostrated their exalted heads at his lowly feet. Another part of it was presided by the god Shiva in his form of a golden Shivalinga, which was worshipped by lady demons with abundant offerings and merry revelries. Bali, the son of Virochana, ruled in this place as the king of demons. He supported the burden of his kingdom on the pillars of the demons' mighty arms. He forced the gods, the supernatural Vidyadharas, the serpents, and even the king of the gods to serve at his feet, like his vassal retinue, and they were glad to serve him as their Lord. He was protected by Vishnu, who contains the shining worlds in the treasure of his belly, and who is the preserver of all embodied beings, and the support of the sovereigns of the earth. The name Bali struck terror in the heart of Airavata, the elephant that bears Indra, making his cheeks fade with fear, just as the sound of a peacock petrifies the insides of serpents. The intense heat of his valor dried up the waters of the sevenfold oceans of the earth and turned them into 7 dry beds, as under the fire of the universal conflagration. But the smoke of his sacrificial fire was like a charm, supplying people with water. It caused the rain to fall as profusely from above as the seas below contain waters from above. His frown made the high heads of mountains stoop low to the ground and caused the lofty skies to lower with water, like the branches of trees when overloaded with fruit. that will continue established as a silent witness. Begin the Trimana Sanyama process on the esoteric Mahamantra and balance all karmic traces that have been enlivened and touched upon by this reading of the Yoga Vasishta. Jai Gurudev.